decks on day 2. Did not see a lot of it in the feature match area, which is sort of an anecdotal representation of how well decks are doing, but kind of matters is what's left at the end, and 2 copies of the deck here in the semifinals.
Both players going to start with some lands that enter the battlefield. Tap Sylvan Carry added there for Berni. We're heading Wiggins' way.
And the biggest problem with Jeskai tokens on a systemic level, in my opinion, is it does not play well from behind. Once it gets behind on the board, especially against big creatures, it's hard for it to catch up. And Green-Red Devotion is capable of generating some very big, fast threats, Pelucranos especially. And if Robert has one of those kind of starts, it's hard for Travis to keep up.
Soulfire Grandmaster comes down. This is a Courser of Crucifix for Berni. Take a look at the top card. It's a Wooded Foothills. That's coming into play. Trigger the Courser. Gain a life. Sacrifice that. Stay at the same life total. You have to imagine a Forest and Elvis Mystics on the way. Good start here for Robert.
Yeah, very good. Assuming he has some big payoff card in hand, and I believe that he has access to Genesis Hydra.
Forest on top, Mystic in play, pass it back to Wiggins. See what he's capable of.
And now with the board as it is, Nykthos is also positive mana, as Devotion is now 4 on Robert's side of the table.
Flooded Strand going to come in. Wiggins going to go down to 19. See what land he wants to search up here. A couple copies of Stoke the Flames in hand right now. One thing about Travis's build that's a little bit different. A lot of copies of Dig Through Time. He split those, two digs and 2 cruises.
Yeah, most of these decks go to just 4 copies of Treasure Cruise, but he's on the split this weekend, which I think probably makes the deck a little bit worse game 1, but may help post-board when you have more of a control package that you're going for, trying to facilitate things like End Hostilities and Anger of the Gods.
And that's what most players have been sideboarding into with this deck for a little while. Looks like we're going to have Stoke the Flames here. And it'll have lifelink too, thanks to the Soulfire Grandmaster. So Wiggins is going to gain 4 life in the exchange. First time we've actually seen that on SCG Live.
I think that is, yeah, the first burn spell with Soulfire Grandmaster involved.
Didn't happen in DC. Top card was turned up there. Thought he saw a Courser in play. It was a Temple of Abandon. So I imagine we'll have to shuffle the deck. Clearly accidental. I'm surprised it doesn't happen more with Courser, honestly.
Yeah. It does surprise me sometimes that, you know, it's a card that's definitely conducive to procedural errors, both for getting to flip up and also keeping your card face up after it dies. Sometimes I wonder, you know, Courser Crucifix is this really sweet design. I'm a fan of the card, but curious sometimes if it's the correct sort of design to push towards tier 1, given how likely it is to create those kind of procedural errors.
Warning was given to Berni there, but play will continue.
On Magic Online, it's super smooth, at least. It should be super smooth, but in real life, it does create some issues.
Berni going to take a look at the top card here with the Temple. And it goes to the bottom. There's an attack for 1. Let's see if there's a big follow-up. Oh, that's pretty big. In Pelucranos, World Eater. Back to Travis Wiggins, we are going to go. Looks like he drew another copy of Stoke the Flames. He'll play a Temple of Epiphany. It's time to scry. Top card. We'll see where it's going. Looks like it's going to stay on top.
Pretty powerful hand here for Travis, but Pelucranos is problematic for his deck.
Yes, it is. And again, this is something we talked about when we were watching Red-White. Jeskai, even though it is a red-white deck, doesn't play very many mountains, so can't afford to play Chain of the Rocks.
Yep. And Siege Rhino is especially problematic because it has Trample, and usually the way that Tokens tries to work around this is chump blocking with Raise the Alarm and Hordling Outburst, getting to a position where it can do things like Treasure Cruise and Ascendancy to overpower.
The Grandmaster is going to get in front of the Pelucranos. It looks like there's going to be an attempt here to Stoke the Flames, but Berni, I think, can work his way out of the situation pretty easily.
Yeah. I mean, he can simply respond by fighting the Soulfire Grandmaster.
However, it's going to go after the Elvish Mystic.
And no real reason for Robert to do anything about this.
I don't think so.
you know, you're not playing against End Hostilities game 1. I think Robert's just double checking to make sure that no weird chicanery is happening, like the Stoke of Flames going back to his hand, but I think he'll take it.
No chicanery indeed.
Possible that Wiggins' hand is so bad that he just has to cruise next turn.
Yeah.
And Soulfire Grandmaster is worth very little right now.
On this board, absolutely.
Yeah. It's a weird looking block. I'm not sure if that play is correct, but on the balance, it probably doesn't matter too much. Just trying to play for Treasure Cruise this turn.
There's 4 mana. There is a cruise. So 3 cards coming here for Travis. Jeskai Ascendancy among the cards. Also a Temple of Epiphany, which is going to come into play as Wiggins hasn't played a land yet this turn. A little scry action here. Top card. We'll see where it goes in just a moment.
And Wiggins now with Ascendancy in hand, some Raise the Alarms, he gets a little bit of play soon. It's going to be hard to overcome Pelucranos, but he's got a hand. You know, if any sort of hand's going to work around it, it's going to be something like this.
Boon Satyr on the end step will be bestowed on Pelucranos. I think it's going to be attacking for a lot of damage. Here comes the Wooded Foothills. And what looked like a rather innocent turn there from Berni was anything but, as he's really going to turn up the heat on how much damage can be dealt. And I think we have a Genesis Hydra coming.
Yeah, and the problem is that Travis really needed a turn of play Raise the Alarm to get a little bit of a reprieve here to block, but Pelucranos' fight power means that, you know, he takes 9 on this shot, he takes more than 9 whenever he makes a move with Raise the Alarm, and he just might not have enough time to extract what he needs out of Jeskai Ascendancy.
A Nykthos activation here will generate even more mana. There is Genesis Hydra. It's going to be for a whole bunch. Not the best Genesis Hydra we've ever seen, just Nylana Blossoms. But that does allow Berni to draw a card, and that's more devotion for the Nykthos.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously bigger hits in the deck, but Eidolon is not the worst case scenario.
And Genesis Hydra will be a 7-power creature. Draw a card from the Eidolon. Maybe it's bigger than a 7, it's an 8. And this is an attack for 9. All right, it's a 7. There we go.
Still pretty big.
Yes.
For a deck playing with a bunch of Lightning Strikes and Wild Slashes, this is a lot to ask.
And Wild Slash was the draw step.
Perfect.
Perhaps it's time for that Eidolon to kindly leave. Couple of copies of Wild Slash over there. You just know about the Jeskai Ascendancy too, Raise the Alarms. The one thing about Jeskai tokens, just really has a difficult time, especially game 1, coming from behind.
Has to involve Ascendancy and then some bobbing and weaving with tokens to chump block, generating a lot of value out of the Ascendancy and eventually overpowering with Treasure Cruise, removal spells, and a bunch of tokens. And with a lot of time, the token deck can do this, but right now, I fear that Travis is just going to be facing too much damage too quickly to allow him the number of turns he needs to set all this up.
There's Wild Slash. That'll take care of the Eidolon. Plus, the closing speed on this Devotion deck is incredible. Looks like maybe a Genesis Hydra was the draw step. Berni going to sacrifice a fetch land.
Pairings for the final round of Swiss are now being posted online at pairings.starcitygames.com. And for your convenience, we are posting paper copies of your pairings. And right beneath that are your standings as of the end of round 7. And again, this is for the Legacy Premier IQ. Pairings are now posted on pairings.
Time for the Nykthos activation.
And they're now posted on the
7
pairings
green,
board,
8 nights
along
home,
with the
12
standings
mana.
as of the end of
Well,
round
okay then.
7.
Looks like this one's going to be for
Please find your
10.
match.
Let's see what Berni's able to find here. There's old Whisperwood. I had a feeling he was looking for one of those.
Now, Genesis Hydra, on the other hand, is a totally sweet design that I can totally get behind being powerful.
I like Genesis Hydra a lot.
Yeah.
You got to work for it, but the payoff is good.
Fun for the whole family. Pretty flavorful.
There's a 10-10. Brought along a 4-4 with it, which is hoping to bring along a 2-2 manifest with it.
Which could be anything down there.
Yeah. This is just some good old honest magic.
Sort of. I mean, there's Nykthos is involved, which is sort of cheaty, sort of not. You got to at least play to the board, and your opponent can interact with a lot of different stuff.
And there's 2 soldier tokens. You know, Bernie's probably thinking here, okay, well, what's the worst that can happen? Not a ton.
I think that Travis needed to deploy the Ascendancy the last turn. As long shot as it is for him to come out of this, I think that it has to involve Ascendancy coming into play as the first order of business.
Yeah, I think so.
Because he needs to treasure cruise, find a lot to work with to be able to start working through this stuff. If he's just firing off his cards like this, he's just going to get buried. The creatures are too big.
Green specialty. And go back Wiggins' way. There's a temple. Take a look at the top card. It's going to go to the bottom very quickly. Does not like what he sees. Perhaps now is the opportunity to drop down the Ascendancy. And it is. Wild Slash raise the alarm with the cards left. But Travis realizes, you know what? I can't get through this thanks to Pelucranos' fight, and he will concede the game. So Robert Berni is going to win game number 1 here over Travis Wiggins. Green Art Devotion up a game here over Jeskai Tokens, which means it's time to turn our attention to the sideboards for both players. For Travis, we see a Hushwing Griff, Stormbreath Dragon, 4 Disdainful Strokes, an Erase, a Valorous Stance, a Sark, and the Dragon Speaker. 2 Anger of the Gods, 2 Unhostilities, and 2 copies of Glare of Heresy.
I think Travis needs to convert into a control deck here. He needs to be able to answer the board. I think Anger of the Gods and End Hostilities come into that end. I think Sarkin is also fine. And the 4 copies of Disdainful Stroke answer Robert's big plays.
Other side of things, for Berni, we saw it last round. We'll see it again here. 2 Arbor Colossus, 2 Genesis Hydra, 3 Nihilius Disciple, 2 Reclamation Sage, 2 Setessan Tactics, a Xenagos God of Revels, and 3 Nissa Worldwaker.
I think it's worth bringing in the Reclamation Sages to fight over Jeskai Sensei because that card is so powerful. The Arbor Colossuses are pretty hard for Travis to answer and also help out in the event that Travis sideboards into his flyers. I think the 3 copies of Nissa in this matchup are good as well because you know that Travis is going to be bringing in definitely his End Hostilities and possibly Anger of the Gods as well.
Well, we're in Houston right now for the first time. It's been a very, very enjoyable stay, but next weekend we do head to Los Angeles as we take a look at the rest of season 1 here. It's going to be over before we know it. Got a standard open there. We've got a Modern Open Series, our first ever Modern Open Series in Baltimore. The week after that, you and Matthias will be handling that, and then the Grand Prix in Miami.
Yeah, very exciting. The last time we were in Miami, of course, a great Grand Prix with Reed Duke winning, a classic top 8, a lot of great matches. We're happy to be going back.
After that, we're going to head over to Dallas, come on back down to Texas, March 14th through the 15th. That'll be you and Matthias, and then we will close it up on season 1. The Open Series, that'll be standard along with a Legacy and Standard Invitational. Me, you, and Matthias will be in Richmond. You for the first time.
Yep. Well, I was there for a Grand Prix way back in the day, but in terms of covering an event, it'll be my first time.
You were at the extended Grand Prix, weren't you?
What was the year?
Ooh, that was Charlotte. Never mind, that wasn't Richmond. The one that Mike Crum won. That was in Charlotte.
No, I was not there.
With Dredge.
Ravnica sealed or something? I can't even remember.
So
Everything
long
is
ago.
such a blur. Cold Snap, Strat on, I don't remember.
That was in St. Louis. There was one in St. Louis.
Phoenix as well.
I was not at that one. I was in the one in St. Louis.
I cashed the Phoenix one.
Attaboy.
Yep.
Attaboy. Still got it. I cashed the St. Louis one. I lost playing for top 8 twice. Some dude named Shuhei Nakamura beat me.
Probably got really lucky.
Lucky, yeah.
Probably got so lucky.
It's unbelievable. What are you supposed to do when they get super lucky?
I don't know.
Todd Stevens up a game with Jeskai Tokens against Matt Way playing Red Green Aggro. Maybe a little bit of surprise there. I would want to see like number of sanctioned matches played, who has the most.
Has to be Shuhei Nakamura.
Right.
His,
Him or Gerard?
His Planeswalker points, his number of lifetime Planeswalker points, I'm pretty sure is greater than, when I looked about a year ago, it was greater than Gerard and mine combined.
It's got to be Shuhei. Most sanctioned matches.
Gerard and I have been playing a lot of Magic. I mean, I guess me less so now. We've been playing a lot of Magic for 15 years, and Shuhei had us beat.
Shuhei just always battling.
Yeah.
I just remember Shuhei playing in Grand Prix Trials, and he already had 3 buys, and it's like, why are you playing? It's like, I like to play Magic.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I don't know the numbers. Maybe there's someone out there who never played competitively, but just played a lot of matches at their local store. But I would be stunned if it wasn't Shuhei.
I would be too. Still battling too.
I mean, 50,000 Planeswalker points. I think that's what level 50 is.
Okay.
It's an incredible number, and Shuhei's going to get to 100,000.
Jeez. That's so many.
That's unbelievable.
That's so many points.
That's like if Cal Ripken played for 27 straight seasons. It's like, like the extent to which that record is impressive and better than the next best person. It's not even a fathomable goal. So big.
I just like to play baseball.
Just like to play.
Pretty straightforward stuff. Green-red devotion here. Up a game for Robert Berni. It's been a heck of a tournament, not only for him, but for the deck. Tanner Grace also making top 8 with it, a different version, however. He saw some other players, Ty Thomason having a nice weekend with it, too. I wouldn't be surprised to see this deck all over Los Angeles next weekend, no matter the result here for Berni.
I think so, too. A pretty good presence in day 2, 2 copies in the top 8. The one copy that got upended thus far was in the mirror. Certainly, if Robert wins this tournament, I think it's going to be all over the place in LA.
Yeah, I do too. Both players will be looking at their opening hands here in just a moment. If we do have time to jump over to our other match between Todd Stevens and Matt Wade, we will do so. But I don't foresee that one taking very long. 2 pretty aggressive decks there in red-green aggro and Jeskai tokens.
I mean, the token set can definitely convert into a control deck like we're seeing here. Make the game go on for a lot longer. But it should be fairly fast.
Only one Obzon mid-range deck in the top 8, so Siege Rhino, even though a lot of them in day 2, not really converting into top 8 appearances. But as we do get our top 16 and 32 deck lists up for players to review, we'll see exactly how many were in those thresholds. Because a lot of those decks, 25 combined, if you count Obzon aggro and Obzon mid-range as the same deck, or at least lump them in as Siege Rhino decks, there are plenty of them out there.
And a lot of people are just going to default to that in your average tournament. They're just going to play the Siege Rhinos because that card is so powerful. Doesn't matter what the matchup is.
Temple of Epiphany to start things off here for Wiggins. He's kept the hand within hostilities, also has a Treasure Cruise, but it looks like he's only kept a 2-lander, so his draw steps are really going to have to help him. So will this Temple as he puts the top card to the bottom.
Yeah, it looks like 2 cruises and then hostilities, only 2 lands.
Elvish Mystic here for Berni. We're going to go back Wiggins' way. He'll draw cards, a copy of Mystic Monastery. That'll come into play tapped. Pass the turn back over to Berni. Berni will draw a Forest.
At the end of Swiss of the Legacy event. So if you're looking to make any purchases, sell us any
and now there is a Courser.
Please do so before the end of the last round.
Take a look at the top cards, the Genesis Hydra. It's time to pass the turn back over to Wiggins, who will take a draw step. Looks like Valor's Stance was the draw. There's a Mystic Monastery. Passing the turn, looking to use Stance on something else, perhaps.
Yeah, he pointed at the deck, so I think he's saying in your draw step.
There it is. So there goes the Courser. Elvish Mystic will be turned face down. Berni will play a Temple. He knows the top card is a Mystic, so he's very quickly going to put it to the bottom. Here's an attack for 1. We'll see if there's something else to follow up with here for Robert. There is, and Sylvan Carry added, and a passing of the turn over to Wiggins. Wiggins will draw another copy of End Hostilities. Excuse me, it's, oh, well. Robert thought it was an Anger of the Gods. I thought it was too, but it's just a Rabble Master. Like him, I thought everything was going to be swept away. There's Rosewood Elemental. Trigger the Manifest. Take a look at the creature, pass the turn back. Some nice protection against End Hostilities.
I was about to say the same thing. This is really good insulation.
Looks like Hordeling Outburst may have been the draw step here. Goblin token, attack step. Manifest creature in front of the Rabble Master. There's a lightning strike. Keep the Rabble Master alive.
I think he was hoping that Robert would put the Whisperwood Elemental in front of one of the tokens.
Absolutely.
And when he didn't do that, he's saying, okay, well, I guess I'll just take care of that.
Nykthos was the face-down creature thanks to the Whisperwood Elemental, so that's a land that Berni did not get. He drew a copy of Reclamation Sage for the turn. And now it's time to think a little bit. Opponent's shields are down, so attacking certainly seems fine. But how much, I suppose, is the question.
Well, I don't think he wants to block with the Whisperwood Elemental based on what we saw last turn, so I think he's likely to attack there.
Does have a Pelucranos to play. Here comes Whisperwood. 4 damage going to come through. Manifest trigger. And it's time to head back Wiggins' way. Wiggins has missed land drops for a couple of turns, so a land here would certainly be helpful to work towards end hostilities. But instead, it'll just be another Rabble Master.
But this is not really that bad for Berni. He has access to Pelucranos, enough mana to fight one of them.
There's a block there. One there. Caryatid may block one as well. Some damage will come across. The Rabble Master will lose in combat. We'll see what the manifest creature was. It was Sylvan Caryatid.
But now Robert really gets to turn up the heat here. Gets to use his 5 mana to use Pelucranos to fight the Rabble Master if he's feeling so inclined. Attack for 11.
That's healthy.
Still have protection from end hostilities. No longer have to care about Anger of the Gods.
Whisperwood Elemental is a huge addition for this deck.
Yep.
The insulation against end hostilities, where before it really caused you to draw Nissa or Planeswalkers, this card's just great against that style effect, which was a big problem.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, before, it seemed like the Green Devotion strategies really had a problem beating sweepers, and they would have to either throw caution to the wind or, you know, try to leave enough in reserves to win. All these are difficult things to do, but Whisperwood Elemental, you just play on curve, and it forces an end hostilities on its own because it generates so many creatures, and then protects whatever you had in play previous from end hostilities as well. Just a perfect card to alleviate the problems that this deck had with sweeping effects.
Wiggins is down to 4 now with 3 Goblin tokens in play. I saw Pelucranos take care of the Goblin Rabble Master. Here is 3 mana. This will be a Hordeling Outburst, but I have a feeling these Goblins are going to be on chump blocking duty, as these green creatures are just much too large for Travis to handle at this point. And he does have a Stoke the Flames in hand. At least it appears that way. So that's something that he can cast in this situation, and Berni needs to be cognizant of.
Yeah, Stoke on Whisperwood Elemental, and then an end hostilities. You know, it takes some time, but it's a path.
Yeah, with Wiggins missing those land drops, he's 2 turns away from end hostilities. So the Stoke is certainly helpful here. He's definitely needed that as step 1 to get out of this mess.
Right.
Berni deciding exactly how he wants to attack. It looks like that manifest creature might be feeling a little frisky. Whisperwood Elemental is going to stay back on D, so. Here are some blocks.
It looks like Travis is making a move to get the Pelucranos off the table, but Robert probably doesn't care too much about that.
No, I don't think so. As long as Whisperwood is out there, he's probably just fine.
Yep. Because he can keep adding to the board without worrying about end hostilities taking away everything.
Ilana Blossom's going to come down. Trigger the Constellation, draw cards, copy Crater's Claws. That'll probably be the check mark.
A little surprised Crater's Claws is still in Robert's deck, but it's going to be good in this spot.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised, but I think also maybe the thought process here is, you know, get as much damage as I can in. Hopefully I get you to around 5 to 7 life and can fireball you out.
It's just a risky card for Robert to draw early on in the game.
For sure.
Post-board, Travis is trying to just contain his entire board.
There's Treasure Cruise. As great as that card is, it's not the ideal time to be casting it. There's a Temple of Triumph. Take a look at the top card. It'll become the bottom card. And for what has been a fantastic run for Travis Wiggins is going to come to a close. Robert Berni is going to win this match and move on to the finals. Green Red Devotion takes care of Jeskai tokens. It's been the breakout deck of the tournament and the breakout player of the tournament as well. And he's got to win one more match to get that trophy.
And probably one of Robert's easiest matches of the entire tournament. I mean, it never felt like Travis was threatening anything significant. He was backpedaling both games the whole time. Robert had a very